Welcome to another Instagram Live. As always, these are my highlights to begin the week. It's absolutely wonderful to be here. I'm Sana, and today I will be talking to a chocolate maker. And if you have any questions, as always, you will be able to write in the chat or contact me afterwards, of course. So we've got the rest of the, for me, evening, and in North Carolina, it's morning. So we'll see. Moment there.
Hey.
Well,
Thank you.
here.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty well. Sun is setting. It's so we'll see how dark it gets.
I know it's the time change just yesterday. It always makes me a little sad for evening sunny activities.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference, especially here in the north of Sweden. Well, in the north of the world,
Mhm.
4 o'clock, and it's already getting dark.
Mm.
And everyone who doesn't know you, let me give a little introduction. So this is Jael, one of the chocolate makers, well, founders of French Broad Chocolate, together with Dan. And
Mhm.
we met for the first time at Cocoa. It was feels like ages ago, but it was absolutely wonderful.
Mhm.
Uh, was the first time I tasted your chocolate, and now through the Chocolate Corporation, your chocolate is available in Sweden even. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about the journey of French Broad all the way from Costa Rica to Will, North Carolina. Well,
Mhm. Thank you. I just before we start chatting, can you hear me okay? I want to make sure. Okay, good.
sometimes there are glitches with live connections. If that happens, we'll just repeat ourselves until we make ourselves understood.
Okay. It's really fun to see the people joining, scrolling by. So I just want to say hi to Ellie, hi to Holly, hi to Sophia. Those are names I've seen scroll by so far. So thanks for inviting me. It's really good to talk to
And anytime you see a comment drop by, hi to, just go for it. That's the beauty of these lives through Instagram, that people can connect, and anyone watching, please
you.
ask
Okay.
us.
My kid Sam just joined. Shouldn't you be in fun?
How fun. Well, hopefully people will socialize a little bit among themselves or with us. And in the meantime, I would love to hear the story behind French Broad, because it started almost 10 years ago in Costa Rica.
It actually was about 16 years ago, about the same age as my kid, my first kid. And we actually started, chocolate kind of entered the scene in Minnesota, where Dan and I were both living. And I was playing with chocolate just as a hobby and a passion and a way to share with family and friends. And during that time, I was also in school. I had entered a program to receive my master's of business administration, and that that led me to sign up for an environmental business class in Costa Rica. I ended up dropping out of the program, but I already had my plane ticket to Costa Rica, and that's what brought me there originally. So chocolate was already kind of like starting to play a factor. In fact, I had a moment in my kitchen hand rolling truffles when I kind of had that epiphany that happens to a lot of us in chocolate. when I realized that was what would make me happy. That was what I wanted to focus life's work on. So going to Costa Rica was just sort of a serendipitous point in that path. And then getting there, of course, where we landed in the Southern Caribbean, Puerto Viejo, was a cacao growing region. So that just, kind of cemented the path in chocolate. And we started, as a dessert, as a restaurant, using chocolate, buying Costa Rican chocolate and making desserts and confections with it. And, making chocolate didn't really enter into the picture until we came to Asheville. But yeah, chocolate, and cacao in Costa Rica was very, very important, formative to our experience.
I can imagine, and I completely relate to that, like epiphany where it's like, okay, making chocolate, playing bonbons. Like,
Yeah.
yes, that happened to me as a teenager, and I realized chocolate needs to have a part in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, I relate to that.
Know about how cacao grew and how chocolate was made when you moved to Costa Rica?
It hadn't really, um, I hadn't really done much study in it and hadn't really considered that aspect of chocolate until I had the opportunity to live amongst it and to live, with wild cacao trees growing all over the place, or I should say like abandoned, agriculture, because cacao in Costa Rica had kind of a rough go for a while with fungal blights and disease, and it kind of became less favored as an agricultural product than other alternatives like pineapples and bananas. But no, that was where I that was where I visited farms and met farmers and saw the way that it was grown and what the plant looked like, and how farmers or people living on farms would make chocolate like in a really low tech, simple way, which is beautiful and definitely made a big impact on me.
I can imagine. I think anyone who has that first connection with the traditions and the deeper roots of chocolate and not the tasty, beautiful things that we eat, it's important.
Right. Yeah. It's come a long way since its early days for sure.
And it feels like you carry it with you, the value of the cacao.
Definitely. And I think all of us as chocolate makers, it's our goal is just to honor that tradition, that ritual, that culture, while just honoring what is, what the source of that and the people at the root of that.
Yeah. How often do you go back to Costa Rica?
I'm actually going back on Friday. But I'm not. I'm. I'm not going actually for cacao. I'm going to a surf camp.
A surf camp.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But it's been with the pandemic. Travel's been lighter than in the past. But Dan also just took our kids back to Puerto Viejo this summer. So we're it's still a really important place to us, and it's where our first son was born. So we'll always be deeply connected there.
that's what I can imagine. How long ago did you move to Asheville and set up the factory? That's a decision, a big change.
Definitely. We kind of made the decision that we were ready to start a new chapter after living in Costa Rica for 2 years. And so we started talking to people about what we wanted in our home. And we wanted a place where we could be supported as a small business, where food was really important, where we could raise kids, And people kept bringing up Asheville, and I had never heard of it, Asheville. So, but it came up enough that we decided to come visit here. We visited for 5 days and decided that we would make it our home. And that was 2006. So it's been 15 years since we've been here. We had very small dreams. I would say at the beginning, we wanted to have just a little home-based chocolatier business where we were making bonbons and selling them at farmers market, um, and we did that. But then it's just continued to grow. So starting at the farmers market really established our values around sourcing and the importance of building relationships with the source of our food. And so we got to know, our local food shed and what was growing and what paired with chocolate and who we could get it from. Started to really develop those values, and that was kind of like at the core identity. It actually took a couple of years after that for us to kind of have that next epiphany of, oh, we actually don't feel connected to the source of our chocolate. We were buying chocolate, using it as an ingredient, and that just didn't feel like it alignment with our business values and our personal values. So that's when we decided to make the leap. That was in 2010. So we had been in business for a couple of years, and yeah, that was a whole entire process because we had a whole dessert restaurant at that point. We had a lot of recipes of bonbons and pastries and drinking chocolates, and we had to reimagine and reformulate everything with the new chocolate that we were working with. Mm-hmm.
I like that commitment.
I'm seeing questions real quick. I'm definitely not a good moderator of myself.
Sorry about the comments. I'll keep trying back to things. And now we had a half a question, and now we have a full question, so we can after the beautiful comment from Sophia that she even remembers when the first person told her about your shop.
Mm.
Hearing about it, even that was a beautiful memory. So aside from having cultural significance, would you say that low-tech chocolate tastes far better than those produced large scale?
There's a lot packed into that question, and I definitely wouldn't equate technology with flavor one way or the other. I think what's more important is having sensory analysis and human discernment as a part of the process, and people using equipment to coax flavors out of the cacao and other ingredients. And I think that's what's kind of the missing key in what we consider as industrial chocolate or commercial chocolate is just that push a button and the chocolate turns from a bean into a bar without much intervention. So I think if there's technology is beautiful, and equipment that makes human work easier can be great, but we just need to make the craftspeople are still able to exercise their discernment and sensory skills, what we bring as people to the chocolate.
Yeah. I think they're happy with that answer. And next with another question that I wanted to bring up as well, because there's always so much talk about what is craft chocolate, what is bar, and for people to understand that when they're not connected to the world of chocolate at all. So how do you define and explain craft chocolate into bar, or shop and factory?
It's a really important question, and there isn't a single answer. I think as an industry, we recognize that that's an important step is for us to come together and on agreed upon definition so that we kind of all know what direction we're pulling together. But so what I'm about to say is probably rambly and my own opinion, but I think of bean to bar chocolate or craft chocolate as like a recipe with a few key ingredients, and the ingredients being people, process, and place. And so the people, it's kind of what I already spoke to. It's just, people, craftspeople who are producing chocolate using their sensory analysis and discernment and skill, as compared to a more industrial, automated process. The process itself, there are many, many different paths to get from bean to bar, so it's really hard to say it is step 1 through 5 or 1 through 20. I think, we start with the raw beans and we end up with a bar. And there may or may not be roasting. There, may be a stone mill, there may be a metate, there may be a ball mill, there may or may not be tempering and molding, so it's I think there's lots of different paths you can take, but it's just like the outcome is whether it's going to be enjoyable or not, and that there's a lot of preference in that, um, and the place aspect is a bit more wiggly, but I think to me bean to bar chocolate has a sense of place, and a connection to the source, which I've already identified as one of our core values. So again, there are lots of different ways that relationship can look. It can be direct with a grower. It can be with a producer who buys from tens or hundreds of farmers. It can be with an importer whose collection of chocolate and relationships you trust. But ultimately, I think there's a knowledge of and connection to the people and the places at the source of our chocolate. Recognize that none of us can make delicious chocolate without really good cacao, and that takes a whole lot of people and places that we as chocolate makers really, it's our responsibility and our honor to be connected to those folks.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. It's so important. I usually, when I taste things and share chocolate, I talk to people about the two origins that chocolate connects you to, because it's both where the cacao comes from, where it grew, but also where the chocolate was made, to make you realize the difference. And or sometimes, okay, it's grown and made in the same country, but most often it's not. Uh, that's something that a lot of times people haven't thought about it, even if they might know it. But some people still do think that cacao actually grows in some European countries. So
Right. Right. Belgian chocolate has a meaning to people, but it's really just where the cacao is transformed into chocolate. So yeah, I think that's an important distinction.
and every time I talk about travel through chocolate, then beautiful, because I mean we were saying before you can't travel much now, but then I imagine that I'm visiting several places with one piece of chocolate.
Yes, it's definitely, again, it's the the honor and the privilege to be able to visit the places and the people that are the foundation of what we do.
And how do you source your cacao? Most of it through like you were mentioning a few different ways on how to get chocolate. So can you a little bit on your process with your
Yeah,
cacao?
it's all ultimately relationship driven. So it's going to depend on that relationship and that partnership, what it looks like. So for some origins, we'll work directly with the grower. Sometimes a a producer that buys from other farms and centrally ferments and dries. Sometimes it's cooperative. Sometimes it's through a trusted importer. And I think the there's there's a lot of different ways that relationship can look.
Yeah. Have you personally visited all of the places where you source your cacao?
The one place that actually there's two that we're sourcing from now. I'll say that, first of all, don't let me forget that question because I always do that. I'll change the subject and I'm going to get back to that. But um, um, we always want to visit the sources of our chocolate, and we want to um, be connected directly. And we want to be long-term partners. So we don't want to say, like, what collection of cacao are we going to use this year? We want this to be a long-term benefit to our partners so that as we grow and make more chocolate, we're buying more cacao from them. So we take that as a responsibility in that. So we're sourcing from, I think, 7 different sources right now, and 2 of them haven't visited, and they're definitely on the docket post-pandemic. But both founders of those sources I've met at events like we've met at Chocoa and at the Salon in Paris and at the Northwest Chocolate Festival in Seattle. I'm very excited to visit our partners in India, Malai Cacao, and also Semaliki for our friends at Latitude Cacao in Uganda. So those are 2 places that we haven't been to visit yet, but definitely still see the relationship in the same way, though excited to connect with the place as well. Did I get back to the question? I forget.
Did a lot of the places, and if you, well, they all obviously have a very personal meaning and a specific place, and you want to go to India and Uganda. But is there, besides Costa Rica, a place that has a special place in your heart or specific memories that, like, a place you always want to go back to when it comes to cacao?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I have a special place in my heart for our Nicaraguan cacao, Cacao BCS dough. They've got a lot of experience in cacao production, agronomy, and have a clear point of view on their cacao production. They're in a beautiful place, like most cacao grows in beautiful areas of the world. But that was really meaningful to us just because how we were introduced to them. It was through a local coffee roaster here and a nonprofit that they were working with. And the Nicaraguan cacao has become has become kind of a workhorse for us. It's a really it's a flavor that plays well with lots of other flavors. So being that a lot of our business is desserts and confections, that's really beneficial. So we use that Nicaraguan cacao to make a lot of drinking chocolates. We make our chocolate chips that become the foundation of so many other products. So that one is, yeah, really special to us.
Yeah, I can hear that. Beautiful. And now all of your bonbons and treats, anyone who's been to the French Broad Instagram,
Mhm.
like, you want to go there. It looks amazing. And all made with your different chocolate.
Right. So we started in 2010, we started to sort of play with chocolate. Like we got our first grinder and make bean to bar chocolate, had a couple of probably terrible bars in our case at that time, but almost everything was still with other people's chocolate. And it took us a year and a half before, from that moment when we opened the doors of our first chocolate factory, and another year to reformulate all of our recipes. So it took us from that first moment of making chocolate in 2010 till probably 2013 before we could say that all of our chocolate that we used was chocolate that we make. But now definitely that is who we are and what we do. Our mission is to make. So, we'll always hold on to that and make all of the chocolate that we use in all of our other products.
It's so wonderful. I really hope that more people will do that, because it's such a, both skills, to be a chocolate maker and a chocolatier are such amazing skills, or a pastry chef as well.
Yeah. At this time, we've grown enough that we have a team of chocolate makers, a team of confectioners, and a team of pastry folks. And so we've got a lot of specialty in all of those areas, and people whose career and whose passions are aligned with that specialty. I also think it's really, as we talk about craft chocolate and how we might move forward as an industry, I think it's important to go beyond the bar, bean to bar, and beyond. Most people in the world consume chocolate in ways that are not, single or chocolate bars. They're eating chocolate chip cookies or chocolate, hearts at Valentine's Day, or cakes, or drinking chocolates, or, chocolate dipped granola bars, whatever the thing may be. That, like, a lot of the chocolate that we consume is out of this bean to bar sort of niche. So the more we can bring attention to the importance of sourcing both in a way that honors people and place and, planet, the more of a difference we can collectively make industry and our and the people who are involved in that process.
Definitely. I've been spotting the hashtag bean to craft instead of bar.
Yeah, we've got bean to bonbon on our bonbon boxes. Probably most people don't know what that means, but it's an intention at least.
The ones who do know what it means, they'll be really happy. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, the amount of people who actually have been to bonbon, like self, like within their, it's not a lot of people.
I think it's growing as more and more people around the world are getting into craft chocolate. And, the question becomes, what do I do with all this chocolate? Yes, I have a market for bars, but what else? So it kind of grows from making chocolate to more. We kind of, as we talked about, kind of came in through the back door and, like, making all these things, and then how can we make it better, and kind of backed into chocolate making instead of the other way around.
Yeah, that's true. And I really want to see more of it. It makes me really happy. And also chocolatiers, you craft chocolate or their local chocolate maker, that people can team up and boost each other. I hope to see more of that.
Definitely agree with that. That's a big area for growth in craft chocolate, is being a ingredient for other craft people, chocolatiers and pastry chefs. And, a lot go to a restaurant, and the chef or the server can tell us where the beef comes from, where the greens come from, where the eggs come from. But you ask where the chocolate comes from, and nobody knows. It comes from a truck, It comes from maybe Belgium is the most that people can identify. But I think that's a really important area, is, like you said, using a local chocolate maker as an ingredient and committing to the values that represents.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some questions popping in. I'll come back to some, but this one connects with what we're talking about just this moment. So what trends are happening or are going to happen and will affect the bean to bar business?
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned a few, but just to kind of summarize, I think becoming like an ingredient. So again, volume is important. Small sounds lovely, but volume is where impact is seen. So you buy, you know, you pay a premium for a bag of cacao, that's great. But if a company can pay a premium on 100 tons of cacao, that's more meaningful, right? So I think the more uses that we can divert from industrial chocolate into craft chocolate, we'll see the supply chain moving from commodity cacao to fine flavor cacao that values the people and the skills for produce that. So I think that's a really important trend. I think the the idea of a sense of place is important. Again, like we use the word local, which I think is really important, even though this is a global ingredient and most of us outside of the tropics can't grow it locally. So just acknowledging that. But from there, like what kind of personal spin or point of view can you add to that food. So, you know, for us, we're in the southern United States. What does that mean? What kind of flavor influence? What grows here? You know, the culture and traditions of our area that's going to be different from a chocolate company in Norway or in California or in Paris. So everybody, you know, just being yourself and bringing your own point of view. And customers, I think, are chocolate lovers are really into that. Just kind of like how can you make it unique? Single origin bean to bar chocolate, dark chocolate, I think is really important, and it's a really important part of the story to honor cacao and the different flavors present in different places and different traditions. But you know, a lot of people want to play as well, and they want to enjoy kind of inspiring flavor combinations. So that I think is an important trend as well.
Definitely. I can only agree with you. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see where everything is going to go in the future, what's going to happen next, how everything is going to hopefully take off to a lot of positivities. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but we got a question earlier talking about the difficulties. So, what are the real concerns related to cocoa? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about trends, and you've mentioned the concerns as well. But focus on them for a moment to see.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot. There's there's a long history of social injustices and related to colonialism and um, not lacking value for people in the value chain. And I think craft chocolate and I personally, in our company, it's our um, you know, I think we strive to see improvement in that. But it's got to come from first a place of study and understanding and listening and transparency. So I think, you know, the process of decolonializing, if you will, um, decolonizing is a long one and one that needs to be approached thoughtfully and with time. But that it starts with just, you know, sharing, talking about it, and transparency. So, you know, I'm personally in a study group with some other folks who are opening up this issue instead. The you know, how cacao fits into that story of colonial um, history and inequity, and we talk about it. We do tours every day, and we talk about the problems with um, you know, social justice that cacao presents. It's fraught with issues for sure, and I think we all feel like emotional connection and a joy to chocolate and want to celebrate it and honor it. But to do that authentically and honestly, we do have to face that ugly side of the industry and, face that with our eyes open and, our hearts open and looking to work together to make a difference because I certainly know I don't have the influence to change something that deep. But there's a lot of folks working together, and with our collective work and intention and actions, we can, hopefully see some changes in that. And there's also like sustainability issues, which cacao can be a like beautiful part um, of climate healing. It's grown the right way, in a system that supports, diversity of um, plant and life. It can also be devastating. You're, destroying rainforests and planting monocrop plantations. Yeah, it's a huge question. What's wrong with cacao? A whole lot. And what can we do about it? A whole lot, but it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of people and a lot of intention and learning and unlearning and foibles along the way.
Thank you. This is sometimes we just want to focus on all of the positive and joyful things because chocolate is such a treat, but it's so important to constantly have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that group where you discuss. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people can aspire to have a place where we can discuss different topics. We often grow in conversation.
Right. Yeah. The first step.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we got another question. So talking about your chocolate production, what is your deepest long-term wish?
Hmm. Oh, gosh. I don't even know if I'm ready to answer that. I think I have a lot of stuff stirred right now, like stirred up, like just kind of um, I don't know, um, there's a lot of change happening in our society right now and a lot of, um, thoughtful dialogue about social justice. And so honestly, I don't really know if I have an answer to that yet. I feel like I'm just still in this process of figuring out my place in all of it and my responsibility. And, I think I need to be in that for a little bit before I can say my deep long-term wish, though, like, trust me about it all the time. And, I've been actually studying the idea of a vision, of creating a vision. And, I'm working with someone who describes that as a mountaintop. And the mountaintop is where it's not like a goal necessarily, it is, but it's like a feeling you have and something you're celebrating and what have you accomplished and who's there with you celebrating. And that like is something that I'm thinking through right now. And I know it's about chocolate. I know it's, from the source all the way to the baker and all the people and places that are involved in that. But yeah, I'm still in the process of figuring that out. It's a great question. I'd love to keep talking about it. He wants to continue talking about the vision of chocolate. I'm here for it.
I mean, we all need to have that conversation, but to have an answer, uh, well, I can respect that as well because sometimes it's easy to constantly share our goals and visions and dreams, but to let us sit with them and to really find out what's true, what is what am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
You have something happening with French Broad that is a little bit more in like closer,
Mm-hmm.
but closer and not like the big picture, but some things that will change or visions for the future in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's something that I think like a lot of us, I've been stuck in this pandemic-induced survival frame of mindset, and I'm trying actively to move away from that and to get back in that place of dreaming and that place of futuring and casting a vision. So there's more. There's more. I can definitely say we're growing, and people are starting to care and how chocolate fits into their diet in the same way as they're caring about their single origin coffee and their local beer and their farmers market produce. People are starting to understand the story of chocolate a little more. So I know there's more opportunity for the industry to shift industrial chocolate to more local or thoughtful chocolate. Definitely still chocolate is a luxury, and bonbons and confections are a way that people love to kind of savor it and to see it as art and experience. So that's, an area that's really important to us in chocolate and where we can see more growth and more opportunity.
I like that. I can't wait until I get to visit,
Yes, please.
but it would be absolutely lovely to visit your factory and cafe.
I think you love it here. I know I see you on Instagram outside a lot in nature, and it's really beautiful here. We have beautiful mountains, lovely hiking, mountain biking. Yeah, I think we have a lot of fun. You should come visit.
I love I can combine nature and outdoors with chocolate, and in Sweden we say fika. So when you have nice tree, baked goods, hot chocolate or coffee, and you sit down and you enjoy that social moment with people.
Mhm.
If I've got those two, I'm happy, happy.
Yeah, we got you.
And what are some of the best sellers, like both in the cafe and the bars? Like what do people come and treat themselves to?
Mm-hmm. It's starting with the bars. I think, again, single origin dark chocolate bars are an important part of the movement, if you will. They help tell the story of chocolate, connect people to the places from. But that said, um, milk chocolates and inclusion chocolates are more aligning with people's purchases. Our brown butter milk chocolate is, I think, our most popular bar. Our dark milk chocolate and our sea salt dark chocolate are probably the three top bars. And in other things, bonbons is definitely like what people think of us for. That's what people want from us. And in the chocolate lounge, cake is always our biggest our biggest category every week.
Um, I mean, who can say no to cake? And if it's cake made with amazing ingredients, I could have a cake every day.
You can.
Definitely. I tell people that you can eat all, like enjoy all of these delicious things if they're good ingredients and if they make you happy.
Hmm.
Guilty. You
Yes.
feel good, but if you allow yourself or you give yourself like, okay, I'm gonna eat cake today, enjoy it and don't feel guilty about it.
I'm with you. Hmm. Yes, I have a place for guilt around chocolate, and yeah, the language around that is so important just to honor it with positive, you know, language. Like when you have guilt or you say like, oh, it's a sin or, you know, it's decadent. Um, it's, I shouldn't, I don't know. It's just like, I feel bad for the chocolate, you know?
I treat myself or I'm enjoying. You should, um, that's when we need to use the positive words around chocolate and to enjoy a moment to feel happy. It's important. I also wanted to ask you specifically about the two bars that are available in Sweden right now through the Chocolate Corporation. And it's one of your best sellers, the
Hmm.
dark and the India bar.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about the story behind the dark milk and India. How did they come to be?
Well, starting with the India chocolate, that was um, it was a happy accident, honestly. We there's a our factory, our chocolate factory is in a shared make space. So you'll find artists there, painters, musical instrument makers, graphic designers, muralists. There's just a ton, it's like a collective of creatives. And one of those companies is a spice company, and it's a chef from India who, you know, spices are so important to his menu at his restaurants, and he was dissatisfied with the quality of spices that he was able to get. So that's Spicewalla is the name of the company. It was like one of Oprah's favorite things last year or something. But we wanted to do a collaboration, and so we um, got a sample of the Animali cacao, and we thought how lovely to have this, you know, Indian inspired spice blend of chai masala um, made with cacao from India. So we sourced a small amount, a pallet of this cacao from an importer, Korean, and we made this lovely chai bar. That was going to be a edition, but that ended up being so popular that now it's in the permanent collection. But we had a couple of sacks left of this cacao, and so our head chocolate maker just whipped up a quick batch, 71% dark chocolate, and tasted it, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best chocolate we've ever made. We have to keep making it. So then we, yeah, just added it to our origin lineup, and it still, I think, is my favorite origin bar that we make. And so that's, you know, that's um, Animali Estate. So again, I haven't been lucky enough to visit yet. Definitely on the list. But um, the I've had the opportunity to meet the owners of that company, Carte D and Harwich, and we spent time in Paris and Amsterdam, Seattle, and so I know the people, just don't know the place yet. But that's kind of the story with that bar and how that came into our lives. The dark milk, I think, is a sort of growing category of chocolate. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. It offers the experience, the richness of flavor of cacao that you find in the dark chocolate, creaminess, and the sweetness of milk chocolate. And so I love that concept. We use in our milk chocolates we brown butter, like dairy butter. So that is a part of the flavor profile as well. It adds a little bit of like caramely toffee notes. And for all of our milk chocolates, we use a blend of cacao because we just find that balancing the flavor, distinct flavors of different origins, creates a good foundation for milk chocolate. So that bar is utilizing the cacao that we source from Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Uganda.
Lovely. And I really how it can sometimes become such a lucky coincidence. Then it's like, oh, this is what we have to do. And sometimes it's more, okay, we're developing our dark milks because it's popular. And I mean, you have several that I haven't tasted all of them, but they are mouth-watering by description.
Um, I I love milk chocolate, and I think like um, there's as chocolate, like, as our collective chocolate palate evolves, first, I don't know, I think about like coffee and beer, how like when third wave or second wave coffee started with Starbucks in the United States, and how we all thought like, oh, it's got to be dark, it's got to be bitter, and then it's good. And as we've, kind of progressed, we've learned like actually a light roast, oh, it's actually comes from a fruit. There are a lot of fruit notes. Like what happens if, what nuances can I coax out if we treat the roast differently? And beer, kind of like first you were cool if you drank dark beer. Stouts and porters were the only good beer, and now it's like, oh, people are making amazing, pilsners that are good with like tacos, or there's different contexts that I think we're more free to explore our personal preferences as our sort of palate evolves. So I think milk chocolate is amazing, and again, if it's made with good ingredients and it taps into like childhood memories for me, and that always, is a fun world to discover with your palate, and um, as your sort of brain develops as you're tasting different foods when you're growing up. That I just love. Like a lot of my tasting notes in chocolate are like things taste from my childhood, like different candies or like cereals. So yeah, I think milk chocolate is a fun world to explore.
Ah, and I really enjoy that you talk about these connections that we make. Like for people who are not used to tasting chocolate, they can be it's so challenging for them to come up with the words because feel like they are supposed to say certain things. And
Mhm.
then when the chocolate maker is just like, no, I have candies from my childhood as a reference point, and people are like, okay, so my memory, my connection, they are true. I think that's really important. So it doesn't have to be so harsh all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, people don't have to feel intimidated to get in touch with their taste. And I think it just takes practice to connect like your language center with your taste center in your brain. And a lot of times the connection point is memory. Um, so yeah, I'll taste like, oh, that kind of reminds me of, I don't know, Fruit Loops, or, grape Jolly Rancher, or like some candy that I ate as a kid. Brain will not ever let go of that.
Yeah, because we create flavor memories all the time. And as children, of course, they're going to be strong. I might not have candy references, but a lot of like home cooked sweets and treats, desserts. Like, oh, this tastes just like those cookies that my grandma used. That's where my brain takes, unless you take across the world and different traveling time.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Sure. So we had a really sweet questions early on in the chat that I wanted to take now towards the end, and it was a Filipino, a local Filipino. So he or she was saying that they have cacao trees in their farm or in their where they live, and we're wondering, like, okay, how to start a simple way to start trees, and you want to make chocolate.
Hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm. Definitely not my area of expertise to guide someone to take cacao and make it into chocolate. I think like there are other growers and cacao producers in the Philippines. So if I were that person, that's where I start asking for advice and information from people in your area. A lot of, a lot of cacao is is centrally fermented and dried because it takes a critical mass of material to successfully undergo that process. So to have a couple of trees and to make chocolate, of course, I think it is possible, but perhaps more challenging than aligning with your neighbors.
Yeah. Well, that's a good talk to people connected to the industry where you are as well.
Mhm.
And so many people now in the world who work with cacao and chocolate, and it's absolutely amazing. So if we're gonna focus on the positive things now towards the end, well, we have one last negative thing here then, or the challenging thing. We talked about challengings. We got a question about what makes you angry when it comes to chocolate and chocolate making. If there's something that makes you frustrated, besides the things that we mentioned already.
Hmm. Gosh. Hmm. I don't even know how to answer that question. There's a lot of things that are worthy of anger, and a lot of really big problems that need addressing. Um, uh, I just don't like that's. Hmm, it's a really fair question. I don't know if I'll do it justice and quickly firing off an answer to what makes me angry. I Yeah, I think I acknowledge and that there's a lot uh, of problems that need to be discussed and addressed. But I don't know. I think yeah, I'm so like nervous about something in the wrong way, but um, there's a lot social issues in now, but there's a lot of like sort of generalizing about people or places in the world that is unfair and I again I don't feel I don't want to say angry, but there's like maybe a boycott of certain areas in the world, like say Africa. Africa is associated with bad practices, and that's just not fair. A lot of people who are from a place who like certain labels or accusations just don't fit. So I think there's generalization, making assumptions about people is something that I'm not a fan. We'll just say that.
Yeah, like that's such an important thing, and definitely something within chocolate. We always have to keep an open mind. We never know when we're gonna be positively surprised by something.
Yeah,
Um,
I've like said enough stupid things in my life and learned, and then hopefully say less stupid things from that lesson. So, I know we all need to learn and grow and unlearn and be willing to evolve and change our opinions and our words. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
good. So we turned it into something positive, anyways, to be open minded. And the very last thing, before I'm gonna let you continue with your day, is do you remember your first chocolate encounter, or when is your first chocolate memory?
Hmm. 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 I like the thing that immediately comes to mind is like after school from my mom. So brownies with um, actually mint icing is the thing that like is super deep and comes first when you ask that question.
Nice. Do you have something similar to that in the cafe?
We make a few different kinds of brownies, and we made mint brownies for sure. Mint is like one of those polarizing um, flavor combinations with chocolate. People love it or they hate it, but I'm a fan. I like it.
Lovely. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here for me in the dark evening by candlelight now.
Well, the sun is out. It's a beautiful day here in Asheville. I'd love to invite you here and we'd go for a hike and I'll feed you lots of chocolate.
I'll be there.
All right, thank
Thanks
you so much.
everyone for watching. And if you missed the beginning, it will be soon be available on replay and on my channel. So have a lovely day, everyone. Bye
Bye.
bye. Much.